There is word from parts of the American West tonight that another huge gold rush is underway in this country. Those involved say it's a big one. As NBC's Farland Chang reports tonight, if you can afford to look for it, it's there.
Last century, old-time gold prospectors mined for gold they could see. But today in Nevada, gold prospectors are striking it rich, mining for gold that is literally microscopic.
Well, you can see a lot of gold, little specks of gold all through that.
Geologist John Livermore discovered this so-called invisible gold. He followed up on an obscure 1930s report by a government engineer about some worthless-looking rocks that contain gold.
The key phrase was this was a type of deposit that the old-timers could have missed, right on the surface, because it didn't pan.
So Livermore performed lab tests on more rocks and was amazed at the discovery.
It was so much better than we'd ever dreamed about. I mean, you know, it was many times what we thought we'd find.
His strike in 1961 led to the discovery of more than 30 gold mines. Those mines have produced $18 billion in gold since 1990. And now the U.S. is second only to South Africa in producing gold. It takes money to make this money. Newmont Mining Company says it can take up to 10 years and $100 million to develop one mine. An average of 25 tons of rock must be crushed to squeeze just 1 ounce of gold. And most miners never see the scorching river of gold that is poured into the final product. Each brick of gold weighs 50 pounds and is worth an estimated $250,000 based on today's gold prices. From here, this gold will eventually be sold on the open market. In search of more gold, mining companies are now going underground. It's costlier, but the quality of gold can be 30 times higher.
I think it's more than a rush. I mean, there's a lot more yet to be found.
The new gold rush has turned small desert towns like Elko into boom towns, creating an industry in Nevada that's second only to gambling.
We're quite confident that the industry will have a life of another 20 years.
An industry that started because one man saw wealth where others saw only waste. Farland Chang, NBC News, Elko, Nevada.
And that is NBC Nightly News for this Saturday evening. Dawn Fratangelo will be here with you tomorrow night. I'll see you all next week on the news, on cable, on MSNBC at 9 Eastern, again on CNBC at 10. I'm Brian Williams reporting tonight from New York. Good night. In focus this evening, the mothers whose home-based ideas rapidly become home-based businesses. Our report tonight from NBC's Farland Chang.
Fran Lent just wanted healthy food for her children.
Be nice to your mommy.
This works much better. But I think
Lane Nemeth just wanted educational but fun toys for her daughter.
They want you to write this whole sentence.
And Lisa Marie Nelson just wanted some inspirational music to boost her children's self-esteem.
Got a special way to express yourself.
For all three moms, necessity was literally the mother of invention. Lisa Marie now produces children's music videos featuring her own kids shot in her own garage. Fran started Fran's Healthy Helpings, using her own kids as taste testers.
Fight the head off.
Sampling foods in funny shapes with funny names like Lucky Ducky Chicken, Wacky Whale Pizza, and Lovey Dovey Patties.
Again, kind of a surprise that goes in and out.
Lane Nemeth now sells toys she approves of, and the business she started in a garage in 1977 now requires a warehouse the size of 3 football fields. It's an $80 million business with 30,000 salespeople nationwide, most of them moms. Nemeth still recalls a meeting with a warehouse owner when she was just getting started 20 years ago.
He literally said, well, you can't sign this lease. You're a woman. Your husband has to do it. I saw him many years later. I said, remember me?
Do you have a lot of homework?
Scarsdale, New York author Ellen Parlapiano calls women like these mompreneurs. She's one herself. She estimates they are 10 million strong and growing.
Most of the moms we talked to in our survey were working part-time, but were making maybe $30,000 a year on less than 20 hours or so of work.
Mompreneurs are giving up the long commute, the 9-to-5 grind, and the business suits for home-based careers. And one survey shows that most would recommend it to others.
I like running my own company and being the boss and the flexible hours and being able to spend time with my kids.
When I before worked for a large company, I felt guilty taking off and going to my child's field trip or doctor's appointment. Now, I don't think anyone should feel that way.
Mompreneurs say support from the spouse is vital. Fran Lent and her husband pooled their life savings of $100,000. Lisa Marie's husband financed the entire project. And Lane Nemeth's family went bankrupt 4 times before they hit it big. These mompreneurs say if they have help with childcare and support from their families, they need not choose between work and motherhood.
Special way to express yourself.
They can enjoy the best of both worlds. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And when NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, opening up a new front in the tobacco wars.
By Hurricane Center standards, Danny was never classified as a major storm, but it caused plenty of damage and left an ugly mess to clean up. John Averett has seen many hurricanes, never one with this much rain. Floodwaters woke him up this morning.
This ice chest had floated out of the store back to the back bedroom where I sleep, and it bumped me on the arm. I thought something was in the room with me.
Averett owns the shrimp store along eastern Mobile Bay.
It still froze good and hard for right now.
But without electrical power, he stands to lose thousands of dollars. Utility companies face a massive task. Power lines are down all along the Gulf Coast. Highway crews are out too. Many roads are still impassable. And all around Mobile Bay, residents are already cleaning up and making emergency roof repairs. Danny turned out to be one of the slowest moving hurricanes along the Gulf in decades. Like an unwelcome guest, it sat here for so long that it dumped 41 inches of rain in Mobile Bay. Tree roots in saturated soil could not hold. This pine smashed into part of Bill Harrison's home and landed on his pickup truck.
It's just been something that we would not want to go through again. It's been more just exhausting more than frightening.
Tonight, Danny is only a rainstorm moving inland across the Florida Panhandle. And the message from the people around Mobile Bay is good riddance. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Point Clear, Alabama. Boats had to be used to get some people out of harm's way as Danny's floodwaters soaked the Gulf Coast. All around Mobile Bay, Alabama, residents are cleaning up, drying out, and making emergency repairs. Carol Gordy is taking pictures so her insurance company can see the tree that smashed into her home.
It did put a big hole in the house, and all night long I've been bailing buckets and wiping up leaks because it's going from the front floor all the way into the bottom.
Danny turned out to be one of the slowest moving hurricanes along the Gulf in decades. It sat here for so long that it dumped 41 inches of rain in Mobile Bay. The soil was so saturated that most of these pecan trees around Carlos Peterson's home were blown away.
We did a lot of praying, and God was really with us. He spared us the tree coming to the house.
Danny dumped 13 inches of rain on John Averett's shrimp store.
Got a box full of shrimp over there I'm worried about losing.
All along the Gulf Coast, utility companies are busy restoring power. It could take weeks to clean up, but residents are relieved they can finally begin. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Point Clear, Alabama. Like an uninvited guest, Hurricane Danny is the storm that won't go away. It has been pelting the Gulf Coast since Friday. This morning, as its leading edge hovered near the mouth of Mobile Bay, Alabama, many who had ridden it out last night were on the move. These vacationers are from England.
I've never seen anything like it. I can't believe I've never seen anything like it. Nothing like this in England.
Scary?
Yeah.
With maximum sustained winds near 80 miles an hour and gusts even higher, Danny leveled this 4-story condo under construction in the resort of Gulf Shores, Alabama.
My vinyl side is coming off.
Jimmy Smalley wanted to escape Danny's fury.
We came down to get my boat, but we came a little late, and then the power lines fell, and we just got stuck.
Tens of thousands are without power, many roads are impassable, and the highway which connects the Alabama mainland with Barrier Island resort towns has been closed. Joe Weed and other residents of this condominium tried to begin cleaning up even before the storm had stopped.
This is the first hurricane that we've actually been in, and it's terribly interesting and it's really beautiful, but it's a little scary.
The biggest problem from Hurricane Danny is not wind, but rain. It's dumped 18 to 20 inches in some parts, causing severe flooding in low-lying areas. More than 1,700 coastal residents from Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi are now riding it out in shelters. And with Hurricane Danny still spinning, that number is likely to grow. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Gulf Shores, Alabama. It may look calm and tranquil, but Lake Davis, near Reno, Nevada, has a problem. It is threatened by thousands of northern pike, fish whose natural habitat is the colder waters up north. The state fears the aggressive pike will turn this fisherman's paradise into an underwater hunting preserve.
These fish are a very, very voracious predator. They're a top-of-the-line predator, the equivalent of the aquatic mountain lion.
The state is concerned that California's world-class trout, as well as its bass and salmon, will be devoured by the insatiable northern pike. And if the pike continues south, California's commercial and sport fishing industry could be devastated.
Boy, these guys are really strong.
The state suspects the pike, seen here in native Canadian waters, was illegally introduced into Lake Davis by fishermen 3 years ago. One mature female can lay 40,000 eggs a year. That is what's happening in Lake Davis. The number of pike grows 10 times larger each year. 6 years ago, in nearby Frenchman Lake, when the same problem was suspected, authorities used a chemical known as Newson Knoxfish to kill all the fish in the lake. 2 months later, officials restocked the lake with native fish. But unlike Frenchman Lake, Lake Davis here is used as a primary drinking water source for the small city of Portola. And that's why residents are furious about this plan to poison their lake.
Mad as hell is an understatement. We are enraged that the thought of putting poisons into our lake is even being considered.
Dale Fraser is afraid the poison contains a carcinogen, and it's never been used in a drinking water supply before.
The officials of the official game don't live here. They don't have to be here 10 years from now. We do.
So residents protested. At the state capitol, 10% of the city turned out.
I'm here to put the Department of Fish and Game on notice. Get ready for the fight of your life.
But Fish and Game and the state health department insist there is no reason for alarm.
These particular chemicals, according to Department of Health Services, are the kind that break down and don't persist.
Now the battle has moved to the courts. Residents succeeded in getting the poisoning delayed and still hope to kill the project for good. The next hearing will be this summer. Fish and Game officials say the legal fight only benefits the pike, and that poisoning the lake is the surest way to save it. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Lake Davis, California. Like thousands of other Americans in the U.S. Navy, he's patriotic, loyal, and proud to defend his country.
Permission to come aboard.
But there's one thing about this sailor, one thing about his past that surprises most people.
When you think about it, it's sort of, wow. It does shock you a little bit.
30-year-old Vadim Gudin has essentially led a double life.
They say, hey man, are you sure you're not a KGB spy? Of course, nobody meant it seriously.
It has been a life propelled by extraordinary change.
Mr. Gorbachev,
tear down this wall.
10 years ago, Mikhail Gorbachev still controlled the communist bloc. The Soviet Union still ruled as a superpower. And Vadim Gudin still believed the United States was the enemy.
This is Moscow, Red Square.
He wore a different uniform back then, one with a communist pin. Gudin was a Soviet citizen. The government drafted him when he turned 18, and soon he was operating a tank like this.
We lived in a constant fear of maybe attack from United States, and our particular enemy for training was a battleship New Jersey.
In war exercises, Soviet troops would imagine the USS New Jersey and pretend they were fighting the legendary ship. Gudin says there was plenty of Cold War hostility, but not much else. He earned the equivalent of $5 a month and rarely had enough to eat.
I mean, I always will remember the hunger. You know, hunger was my constant friend.
In 1987, Gudin was stationed at the edge of Siberia near the Bering Sea. But 10 years later, he now finds himself helping to defend a much different coast. Here at the Naval Station in Everett, Washington, this is the remarkable story of a young man who jumped ship. But just how did Vadim Gudin get from the Red Army to the Red, White, and Blue Navy?
10 years ago, I would have said that was highly unlikely and probably impossible.
Jack Matlock was the last U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union.
And this experience of this gentleman, I think, really symbolizes the changes that have come about. I think it shows that the end of the Cold War is bringing greater normality to the world.
Christmas night, 1991. The USSR finally collapsed. The Soviet flag came down for the last time, and Gorbachev resigned.
Good evening. Mikhail Gorbachev and the Soviet Union are history.
By that historic day, Vadim Gudin had already switched sides, following other family members who emigrated to the United States. Eventually, without any special security check, he became a U.S. Navy machinist and ultimately a U.S. citizen. Do you see yourself as a living example of the Cold War that's over?
Yes, I am the living example. I mean, 10 years ago, I wouldn't even imagine that I'll be here and the things will change that much. And I joined the Navy to serve this country, to give back something.
What has this nation given to you?
It gave me everything, you know. They took me, they educate me, they gave me the chance to become somebody.
Gudin has remained close to his Russian roots, joining Seattle's growing Russian-American community. Still, he seems willing to trade his red caviar for some nachos.
Nachos? Yeah, and cheese, that's it.
You don't want no meat?
Nah.
I thought he was Mexican. I couldn't believe he was Russian.
It's easy to see this former enemy has become a friend. Once a communist celebrating May Day, Vadim Gudin is now happy to be a capitalist on the 4th of July.
4th of July is Independence Day, and I'm glad that I live here in this free country. I'm glad I'm part of this, and I feel proud.
For today, Farland, Chang, NBC News, Everett, Washington. He is getting the celebrity treatment as he tries to get accustomed to life on the outside. This weekend, Geronimo Pratt is in Louisiana to reunite with his 93-year-old mother he had not seen for more than 20 years. In 1972, he was convicted of murdering a school teacher in Santa Monica, California. A Vietnam veteran who earned medals for his service, Pratt says law enforcement authorities mistreated him.
They whipped me, they tortured me. And I told them, y'all wrong, I didn't do nothing.
He was framed, he says, because of his Black Panther Party membership. The government considered the Panthers, known for their armed confrontations with police in the 60s, to be a threat to national security. Many blacks considered the Panthers heroes because of community service programs they sponsored during those turbulent times. Pratt always claimed he was innocent of the murder, and last month a county judge overturned the conviction because the jury never knew that the prosecution's key witness was a paid informant. The district attorney plans to appeal. But for now, Pratt, who says he never gave up hope, is being cited as a role model for perseverance.
You know, Nelson Mandela went from P to P. He went from prisoner to president. If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
And he is using his celebrity status to send a message.
You do not disrespect the women. You do not disrespect the children. Come on, you don't put no crack on my child. That's right.
Pratt is now a family man, with 2 children conceived during conjugal visits. On Friday, a special moment. He was there when his 14-year-old son graduated from middle school. Farland, Chang, NBC News. This is Farland, Chang. Lake Tahoe is the 10th deepest lake in the world and a top tourist attraction. But scientists say it became a victim of its own success, slowly being poisoned by too many cars and too many boats, by poor forest management, by construction causing runoff and erosion, and by chemicals designed to keep lawns and golf courses green. Researchers began studying Lake Tahoe nearly 40 years ago when the waters were relatively pristine and visibility was as deep as 100 feet. Now, visibility is only 70 feet, and it's being reduced by more than 1 foot each year. Key signs of how severe the problem is.
And it's telling us that this watershed is out of balance. It's out of whack. It isn't just the loss of clarity.
Out of whack means too many chemicals getting into the lake, which stimulates the growth of algae. It is algae which is turning the lake from blue to green, and algae is killing the microscopic life that feeds the fish. These shrimp-like creatures are near the bottom of the food chain.
They're the early warning system. If we begin to lose these, we're really going to have lost the lake.
From sediment samples, scientists know that algae did not become a problem until development started in the 1950s. Researchers hope the anti-pollution efforts announced today are not too late.
The lessons we learn in controlling man's impact on a very sensitive system like this can be applied to lakes everywhere.
Scientists estimate it could cost $1 billion to revitalize Lake Tahoe, and they warn that the work needs to begin soon. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Lake Tahoe.
Some are expecting a mass exodus of Hong Kong Chinese by July 1st. Some say it's already happened. Many of the colony's richest business people have gone to live outside Hong Kong just to be on the safe side. NBC News correspondent Farland Chang reports from the place many are now calling home.
The sights, the sounds, even the smells, all conspire to create the distinct aura of Hong Kong. But this is not Hong Kong, it's Vancouver, Canada, home to the wealthiest community of Hong Kong Chinese outside of the colony.
Cheers to success. There we go.
What makes this enclave even more unique is that it has grown up in the image of the island some 6,000 miles away.
You don't need to speak English. All you need to do is speak Chinese everywhere you go, and you see so many Chinese people.
David Ho is heir to one of Hong Kong's biggest fortunes. He emigrated to Vancouver in 1984, right after Britain agreed to hand Hong Kong back to the Chinese. His assignment since then, to protect the family wealth by investing here in Canada.
And he's going to get the demolition permit so we can pull those 2 buildings down and start working on the new one.
His holdings include prime real estate, a golf course, and a luxury car dealership. And his clients are also Hong Kong Chinese and also very rich.
Most of the people that comes to buy a car, they pay the car out. There's no mortgage, there's no loan or lease on it. They just come and pay cash for it.
Business is the lifeblood of this community. In fact, it was a business deal that made immigration from Hong Kong to Canada possible. The Canadian government literally sold passports in exchange for a $200,000 investment in the country.
Over the past 10 years, I would say most of the major, the wealthiest, the substantial companies or individuals from Hong Kong, they do have investments in Canada.
These, the most successful of Hong Kong's entrepreneurs, are keeping a foot in both worlds. They're using their unique position in the new world to exploit business opportunities in the old. And many spend as much time in Hong Kong as they spend here. Thomas Fung and the thousands like him are known as astronauts, Vancouver residents who commute back and forth to Hong Kong on a regular basis. Handshake deals are done in the old colonial haunts of the British. Only now, the British are the waiters.
Hong Kong is my half home, my second half.
3, 2, 1, kill.
Back in Vancouver, Fung founded the first major Asian TV and radio stations here. He moved to Vancouver with his parents in 1967 after riots inspired by China's Cultural Revolution broke out in Hong Kong.
The family was, they have concerns over the revolution, with the stability of the Hong Kong environment. And so I guess like an insurance policy, they choose to come over here.
Bill Good on CKNW. Our topic is immigration, particularly from Hong Kong.
There is some resentment among the local population who have watched their once sleepy logging town become a multicultural metropolis.
There's overcrowding everywhere. We just don't have the infrastructure to keep up with it.
I'm actually concerned about the impact that the immigration has on the school system.
Still, for now, Vancouver is home to more than 100,000 Chinese, most of whom hold dual citizenship. But when you ask people like David Ho whether he feels more Canadian or Hong Kong Chinese, he finds it impossible to answer.
I still don't know because it depends on a lot of different things. You know, my children is here, but yet my parents and grandfathers in Hong Kong, so I don't think I can make a decision on that. You know, it could be Hong Kong, could be here, I'm not sure yet.
As they wait to see what happens in Hong Kong following the handover, these jet-age nomads cast doubt on the concept of nationality, determined above all to survive and thrive. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Vancouver, Canada. It's just another Sunday service at the First Southern Baptist Church in Buena Park, California, a suburb of Los Angeles. But the pastor, Wiley Drake, is facing a jail term because of a battle between church and state.
I will obey the law, but I will not cross God's law to obey man's law.
A zoning law. The church allows homeless people to camp out on the parking lot and inside this enclosed patio. Joanne Kidwell manages this 200-unit apartment complex just down the street. She says the homeless are creating a neighborhood nuisance.
People coming on, getting into my trash dumpsters. When you ask them to leave, they become arrogant. They've gone into my laundry room. They've disrobed.
Drake says he should not be punished for being compassionate. He says he vowed to feed, house, and clothe the homeless ever since the day he kicked an old sleeping drunk off church grounds.
I went back to my office and I committed to God, I'll never throw anybody off of this church again.
Marlene Taylor nearly died from pneumonia when she lived on the street. After a few months at the church, she got her health back, found a factory job, and can now afford to rent a room nearby.
I've seen them come here suicidal, practically suicidal, not wanting to live anymore. And I've seen them walk out of here with their heads high, a job and then a new place to live.
The city says Reverend Drake could have set up a legal shelter by applying for the proper permit and following strict rules.
This case is not about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to help the homeless. It's a good thing. This case is not about any of those things. This case is simply about land use and zoning.
Drake claims the city's rules would not have allowed religious teaching at the shelter. Last week, a jury found Drake guilty of illegally housing the homeless. He's to be sentenced on that charge in 3 weeks.
Hi. I have a preliminary injunction.
Within days, the city served the church with an eviction order. That order is now being appealed, but Drake says he's prepared to defy the order. Farland, Chang, NBC News, Buena Park, California.
I'm kidding. That's the name of the law firm.
Some guy looking at me that I might throw in jail.
There's hundreds of ways of getting out. You could tell him you're sick.
For me to take days off for jury duty would have meant my job.
Gloria Gomez, who runs the county's Office of Jury Services, has heard all the excuses.
The most outrageous excuse I have received was a young lady who called over the telephone indicating she was far too beautiful to be serving on jury duty in downtown Los Angeles.
Of the nearly 3 million county residents who get a jury notice in the mail each year, fewer than 200,000 end up performing their civic duty. But things are about to change. Efforts are underway through public and private groups to find ways to get more citizens in the jury box. State Bar President Thomas Stoltman says his organization has been working to encourage people to show for jury duty. Last year, they produced this TV documentary exploring the jury system. The bar also thinks ID